psychology a serious science, or is it a mere collection of stupid theories and useless texts used by scammers and charlatans? Various experts promise psychological help and relief of mental suffering, but is the very field of their competence worthy of the title of academic discipline? Let us try to find out. Many of you probably have heard opinions that psychology is not a science and that it is basically some kind of pseudoscientific, worthless nonsense. Also, you might have heard a widespread opinion that the psychologists are just undereducated psychiatrists and that it would be much more efficient to solve your psychological problems in the company of a close friend, over a glass of wine or a pint of beer. Well, what can I say? Depending on what kind of friends you have and what kind of psychologists are actually available in your area, the former may well give a head start on the latter. But if we seriously want to answer the question, let's try to find out what criteria are used to determine whether a discipline is scientific or not. The answer is simple enough. It is determined, first of all, by the methodology it uses, and not, for example, by the subject of study. So scientific disciplines adhere to an empirical methodology and a systematization of factual data, rather than subjective interpretations. And what does it mean? It means that scientific theories are based on data obtained by either direct observation or data obtained by experiment. And an important detail is that these observations and experiments must be made with great accuracy. They must be systematic and detailed. This will allow other researchers to be able to repeat the experiment or observation and verify its results. As you surely understand, empirical evidence cannot rely on personal opinion, belief, or mere intuitive guesswork. Considering all of the above, the body of disciplines that currently form the backbone of modern psychology, such as neuropsychology, cognitive psychology, behaviorism, psychology of learning, and so on, is considered to be scientific. However, one cannot deny the fact that psychology, as a field of knowledge in a wider sense, also includes some non-scientific theories. For example, Freud's psychoanalysis, which I'm sure you all are familiar with, and also various humanistic theories of psychotherapy, such as Gestalt therapy or personality-centered non-directive therapy, where the client decides what to fix and how they can help themselves. The therapist in this case only empathizes and encourages self-improvement. As you can certainly guess, the authority of non-scientific fields in psychology is of course not as high as that of scientific ones. But this doesn't mean that all non-scientific fields are a complete bunch of crap. For instance, psychoanalysis gave a significant boost to the research on how mind's unconscious processes work. It also inspired the development of fields in psychology that recognize the value of the context and personal history of an individual, including their family background. Of course, one cannot deny the fact that psychology is not as precise as physics, chemistry or anatomy, which is not surprising, because the way our psyche functions depends on so many insane variables, from our eating habits to the last Netflix show we watched, that to correctly account for their impact seems like a delusional idea. This is why there is no 100% predictability in psychology, just as there is in medicine. Further complicating matters is that individual variability is very high. For example, Jane's thinking patterns can be very different from Kate's. As you understand, there are different kinds of practitioners of psychology. There are those who rely in their work on scientific theories, but there are also others. In the West, for example, most psychologists and psychotherapists work within the framework of cognitive behavioral psychotherapy. This field has a solid scientific evidence base. But for example, in Russia or Ukraine or any other former Soviet Union country, things are a bit different. There is a wild field of people who present themselves as psychologists and at the same time base their work on some crazy ideas, based on esoterics, homophobia, sexism and other things that are far from being academic. At the same time, we cannot say that unscientific psychology has never helped anyone. But one thing that is important to remember is that the placebo effect also can help, and that evidence-based psychotherapy must necessarily show a higher probability of improvement than a placebo-treated control group. So guys, if you've been interested, smash that like button, and next time we'll look at what we're made of. And no, I'm not talking about our internal organs. I'm talking about our personality.